that we develop, their fee would be about $10,000. She says if we ended up going with a full downtown TIF district with a plan and everything is involved, there's a substantial more amount of paperwork that's involved, that could run up closer to $15,000. So that's, and she would gladly come up here and share all this information with you. I didn't feel that it would be cost effective to pay her to drive up from Portland at $310 an hour to give us that's $1,000 to come up to tell you the same thing I'm just telling you right now. We'll plant that seed and let you know that I am recommending this because I see too many benefits down the road. I know $10,000 is a lot of money, but that's our next horizon is our downtown. And we can't afford to neglect this because unfortunately we have one of the biggest buildings that's literally falling apart. And if we can come up with some type of public-private partnership to go and correct that problem, it's going to create a different downtown for us. I mean, we've got Buddies that's recently going through the sales process. That's going to be a huge benefit to our downtown because it's going to look nice. And even though we've lost interest from our past two prospective buyers, I mean, because of the problems with the bank block. I mean, unfortunately, the current owner has neglected that property so bad. We've had it assessed. We ended up hiring KV Cog to go in, or we didn't hire them as part of a program that they had, and they did a brownfields assessment, and we've got a copy of that, and it's in pretty good shape. So it's going to basically, if somebody's going to bring that building back to life, it's going to take a complete rehab, and it's probably going to take an awful lot of money to do it. Probably more money than what the building's actually valued at right now. So there'll be somebody out there who may see a vision of that property. It might be something that the town of Oakland could possibly step in at some point, buy the property, bring it back, and turn around and put it on the market, or to do something with it. Because if we lose that building for whatever reasons, we're going to destroy downtown. I don't see it ever coming back if that building goes away. I mean, they're saving buildings like this in Waterville all the time now. Colby College has stepped in and done stuff like this. I mean, we talked about it at Central Maine Growth Council meeting this morning, and I'm sending out lines. I want to get something done. He's willing to sell. I mean, the price I think is getting smaller and smaller all the time because he's now lost two potential buyers for it. So it would be my recommendation for the council to consider allowing me to move forward with this TIF district.
So I just wonder if the TIF, I don't understand TIFs completely, but just enough to be dangerous. Should the TIF, in your opinion, with the $10,000 or $15,000 that we're proposing to spend, come before if someone had the assurance that the town was going to TIF that district, would they then be interested in buying the property?
I don't know.
Are we putting the cart before the horse?
Well, no, because it takes a long time to get a TIF district developed. I mean, this is not a project that's going to be done in a couple of weeks. This is going to be a project that's going to be done in 2 or 3 months. And and then the DECD, the authority that oversees this and authorizes this, they're backlogged as well. So you've got those 2 steps involved in it. The thing is, we set this aside. We get this thing in the district, and we have a buyer that comes in and says, we want to buy this, but we want a credit enhancement agreement with the town of Oakland, meaning that we're going to suspend their property taxes, or we're going to allow them to utilize those property taxes for reconstruction or some type of reinvestment in that property. Puts us in a position that we can do that, because we can't even consider a credit enhancement agreement unless we have a TIF district for it.
But the downside is that we might go through all of this and then the owner of said property not be interested in selling at some point, and then we're nowhere.
Well, there's no downside to it. And the reason why I say that is because what we're doing is we're actually capturing the property taxes from the district that we use. So say for instance we have $30,000 a year worth of property taxes. That money will go into a savings account. that can be spent on economic development within that district. So what that means is that we would have funding to help with facade grants. I mean, we've been reading in the paper where the city of Waterville has won 2 of them so far. Fairfield got one. You know, and a facade grant, what that does is it allows us to go and do a partnership with the business owners. You know, say they're going to put a new facade on the front of the building to improve its appearance. They put in $2,000. The town of Oakland would take $2,000 out of that TIF fund to go with that. They would have an investment. We would have an investment. We could actually start improving the downtown. The other purpose of that funding could be for additional parking in the town of Oakland, because that's always a problem. I mean, you know, in the summertime when things are booming down there, parking's an issue. And then on the broadband, we started this broadband committee. We've found, there's been people who have invested. We had a $15,000 grant that came for a study, and through that study, we found out that our broadband in our downtown is lacking. It's not where it should be, because if companies are involved in telehealth, for instance, they need faster internet than what we have. So we can actually continue with the fiber optics that go downtown, and we can bring them, it doesn't actually go downtown, but we can bring them up to the downtown area and offer that for potential businesses. So what we're doing is we're investing in our downtown through property taxes. And
I'm not opposed. I'm just simply saying that.
No, I'm trying to explain what I know.
If we're kind of centering this whole thing around a particular building, and that if we do improvements, it makes the value of that building more. The owner can expect to get more. I'm not opposed. I'm not sure that there's no downside.
No, I'm not saying there's no downside.
Well, I think you did. You didn't mean it, maybe. The downside may be small.
As I'm understanding the potential for a full district downtown, half this road, my first thought, and I'm trying to visualize those buildings completely, but we don't have a lot on the right side as you go through. Right. Most of the structures are on the left.
Right.
What is, or can, before we push the button to say yes or no, what I'm thinking you're saying is that all the real estate that would be included in this district, we would get the valuation of all those buildings. And let's say the valuation was $2.3 million. And if we took the whole downtown, the taxes from those buildings would become the monies that we would put aside for whatever grants we wanted to do.
Whatever the TIF committee would.
So I guess what I'd like to see, and I guess part of the muddy waters is if you've got buddies that's going up for sale and they're part of this district, we wouldn't be obligated, but I guess we might be expected to provide some funding or some, and I don't know how that part would work, for the new building that's going to take shape there. Would that create issues because they're already in the process? Or would they wait until this is all done so they can request something out?
Well,
Again, I'm not looking at this as negative, I just want to know what we're getting into.
That's why we have to have a committee for oversight. And the committee would make recommendations to the council, and the council would say yay and nay. Anybody could potentially come up and, say, I'd like to go and, share some of these fundings for my prospective business, that I want to go and start. I need some help with it, and I think that's going to be up for us to make a decision whether that's a good investment of these TIF funds or not. By the time Buddy's gets their project straight away, it's going to be well before we have this project that I'm talking about grounded. This is going to take a little bit of time.
My first thing, I'd just be interested in knowing what the valuation is, the right side of the road, the left side of the road, if we do the whole thing, if we do part of it.
Yeah, Ginny and I sat down and did the valuation for a downtown. I think I gave you that, I at least told you the figures. It was $3.2 million. I think it generated $56,000 or $58,000 worth of property taxes every year. And that's if we did the whole thing. But if we do the whole thing, we'd have to have the downtown planned, and that means that we don't have a lot of leeway over where we want to go with this. I mean, if we set up a plan, we have to follow that plan, whereas if we do a partial downtown, it gives us the option of being able to go and, you know, do a little bit more unique things with it if we choose to. You know, so don't ask me why they've got those rules in place, but that was what Shauna shared with me.
So what's the partial downtown description?
Partial downtown, she said, could be anything, as long as it's
All in
not the
one
entire downtown. You know, if she says you take both sides of the road from point A to point B, and you put that all in a district, you're gonna have a plan for that district. If you do a partial, say, for instance, the Blake Hardware side, you do all those buildings down through there, you can actually do an L, come over and grab Subway if you choose, or come over and grab Subway and Camden National Bank, or you can just keep it to one side. You can chop it all up, but once you grab the entire downtown, that makes things a little bit more complicated.
So you could say we're gonna do every building that was built before 1950.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could do that, as long as it doesn't involve all the buildings out there. Once you start looking at the entire the entire little space, then you're gonna have to come up with a plan for that.
So that would be almost the entire downtown other than Camden National Bank.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, after talking with her, I'm not sure that it would be financially beneficial for us to take all those property taxes off the tax roll.
Well, that's the next question. What do we have offsetting it with all of our big CMP?
Well, I mean, that CMP project has changed tremendously. We've learned that project has gone from a $22 million project to a $41 million project. You know, I mean, that's going to put us in a whole different world here for our property taxes. As a matter of fact, there is a real potential that we're going to see a substantial reduction in our property taxes because of that.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at, if you're getting 41 million from them and we're giving up 2.5 million downtown, why do just one side of the street?
The reason why I'm leaning towards a partial is because I don't know if I want to get locked into a set of rules.
Well, I'm saying we can still do a partial, but the partial eliminates one building there.
I'd have to discover that. I'd have to discuss that with Sean a little bit more. You know, I mean.
And that's why I guess I'd like to be able to ask more questions and come up with some.
Well, I mean, I'd gladly bring her up. She was more than happy to come up tonight. I just didn't want to spend $1,000 to get her up here and you know, and to share.
I don't think you have to do the whole downtown in one TIF district, though. I think you could do the left side of the street.
Yeah.
And wait a little while and say, no, it's not a bad idea, let's do some on the right, and then you could have another TIF district there, right, if it worked out. I don't think you have to lump them all
But
together.
then it comes with two costs of doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want the cost effectiveness,
I
get it
know,
done in one shot.
But I think you see Fairfield and Waterville talking about different TIF districts when they're talking. I don't understand how many they got or anything, but they seem to talk about different districts.
Waterville has 12.
12.
What's that?
Waterville has 12.
12? Okay.
Yeah, you know, the other benefit too on this, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The other benefit on this too is, for us anyways, is it does take part of that money, that amount of money out of the school district evaluation, so it cuts down our commitment. And I know that's a wrinkle for some people, but for the taxpayers, for our portion of it, it makes a little bit more beneficial. I'm sorry, Dave.
Once we establish, say, a partial district, the left-hand side of Main Street, nothing says that we can't envelope that into a TIF district, not a partial, but an entire district. Can that be rolled into it, or? See what I'm saying?
Say that again so I can understand.
So, an entire downtown district,
Right.
that's costly, time-consuming, but if you want to do a partial, it's say the left-hand side of Main Street where Blake says stuff, nothing says we can't envelope that into an entire district later?
Yeah, we
If
can
we
do
change
that.
our minds.
But the downside to that is you're hiring a lawyer to go and set this up twice. So instead of spending $10,000, we may be spending a total of $20,000 over a period of time to do that project. I mean, if this is what we want to do, it would be more cost effective for us to do it right up front and get it over with. But we can do that. To answer your question, absolutely, we can change that down the road.
So right now, you're asking for a committee to be
Well,
established?
I'm asking right now, well, I'm asking for support on this, but if you need to go and have more time to think this over, and if you would like me to have Shauna come up to go and do a presentation at the next council meeting, I will gladly do that, because I want to make sure, this is a big decision, and I want to make sure that all of your answers, all your questions are answered correctly, okay? And let's face it, this is only the second TIF project that I've been involved in. The first one was the extension of that one from 10 years to 30 years, so I don't have a lot of experience on myself, but I've studied it a little bit.
Maybe $1,000 is worth it, but maybe the Central Maine Growth Council people
I actually talked with Garvin about it this
could
morning.
come over and answer some more questions.
Garvin is a great guy, but he's hard to go and understand sometimes, you know what I'm talking about on that. And, you know, I think, personally, I think if we're gonna do that, we have Shauna come up.
Or you could still have it come up, but we might, well, listen to both of them might be much.
I don't think in the big scheme of things, that $1,000 to have an expert on tips come explain to us, answer all our questions. The next council meeting is an exorbitant amount. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, that's just me, but
Yeah, well, I was right on the fence with inviting her up. I just wanted to go and, so why don't I invite her up for our next council meeting?
Some of that?
And that's the 12th of August, right?
12th of August.
12 of August.
Good.
Good.
Managers report?
So one thing I wanted to mention to you is we have a very hard situation with our voting on Tuesday. And one of the things that Jan and I had talked about is because of manpower, we've got new staff members, we would like to have the option, if necessary, to close the town office while we're doing our voting. We've got a skeleton crew over here. I'm not sure if we're going to